Hey guys, it's CKS King. Let's get into some symptoms about schizophrenia, schizoaffective, and bipolar. So, memory loss. Do you ever experience your thoughts just being cut off and just disappearing? You start thinking something like it's a book ready to be opened, and then someone takes that book from you before you're even able to open the pages. So you kind of know what the book is about. Maybe you saw the title, you've heard people talk about it. So like you know what this book is kind of, but you don't you remember the general idea you forgot, but you're not able to continue the completion of it, of thinking it, because it's so brief and just goes away. This happens to me in matter of seconds. 5 seconds, I begin a track, and then it switches. Then I have three, four, 5 different tasks or thought tracks to follow, and it begins very difficult to pick one to follow, and generally just ends up with them all spiraling around at my seat of attention. Each one just acting like it's musical chairs with one seat, and they all just keep switching, even though I want the game to be over. This basically describes thought disorder. Um, for a while, this was sort of insulting for me to hear, but I began to notice indeed my thoughts are super difficult to hone in on. This happens with ordinary things in my mind, this like forgetting things. Um, but my mind is also filled with wondering about so many things and crazy ideas about the world that distract me from everything else. So yeah, I think of A to Z from the floor to the universe about like what's this and that. Um, my thinking completely pulls me away from ordinary things, and I find ordinary things boring, such as TV. Um, Constantly thinking of new perspectives and ideas. So maybe this is why my mind also spirals around everywhere. Cooking up new ways of seeing the world doesn't happen by following some how to tutorial. You have to consider every angle, and it takes a long time to construct, come up with new pieces. Like this piece, I thought it fit, but that was the wrong, you know, it wasn't the best fit for this new piece that goes with them together. Um, Trying to describe something is so difficult. It's difficult to put things into words. Depending on what words you use, make an effect or an impression on a person. Every small detail on can determine how a person perceives you. So I spend much time thinking over what things I could say or format to describe something, which maybe I probably overthink it, but this is related to forgetting everything I'm thinking, and so it's the same experience as the thought disorder, but the speech disorder and frenzied speaking are the result of bringing my crazy circus show of a mind to my mouth. So how I was talking about, I'm thinking about the different things, and like it switches here and there, and I had this good idea that I need to write down or whatever, but then it just disappears. So when I begin to open my mouth, it's almost like the same thing's happening, but I just stop in the middle of what I'm saying because I don't know what I'm saying anymore, and things like that. Um, with all this, socializing becomes difficult and frustrating. It seems like most people reply with no more than like a second of time to respond. However, I take moments to think before I reply to someone. Maybe it's due to thinking deeply, or it's just due to a lack of experience of being around people. I've been isolated the majority of my life, even from my parents, so I do not have that experience of growing up around people and having a rapid response time when it comes to speaking. I'd rather think I think deeply, but who knows? So all this leads to things like anger, anxiety, apathy, feeling detached from oneself, general discontent, and loss of pleasure or interest in activities. I want to make rap music, but I forget which song I'm going to. I forget which thing I'm going to organize. I forget this and that. And so it becomes frustrating, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore because I can't even, keep my thoughts together and whatever else. So, and then being angry and having anxiety around people because I don't know how to feel about different things people say. I'm like trying to take in the situation. I'm trying to figure out what people think of me and like how to present myself. Who am I? How do I want people to see me? Um, so I begin to just be like I don't want to go around people because it's frustrating. Um, So you lose interest in doing things with people or even your own activities because you have slow response times and you can never keep track of things, so it's useless. You get depressed, sit, watch your thoughts bounce off the walls and do backflips and flip people off. You ruminate over conversations and things you could have said or could have said differently, or that you messed up and said wrong or whatever. Um, so when you have a whole full-blown psychosis, disorganized behavior is a little bit different from when you're not in psychosis. When psychosis is occurring, things just happen without thinking about it. You just go and do things and say things as thoughts and words come into your head. Your voices and energies just control your speech and where you go and walk and what you do. Um, so this is like thoughts to speech to behavior. Mind makes your words, makes your habits, or something like that. There's this, thing that they say, like your thoughts basically determine your reality. And so, like, these voices and whatever determine what I say and then what I do and walk around. When I'm in psychosis. When I'm not in psychosis, maybe some of those things are still kind of like pulling on me, but I don't pay attention to them. It's still like a distraction. It's, more of these thoughts that loop through my mind in matters of seconds that I'm like, okay, switch, flip that out, don't want to think about that. I don't know what I'm doing that for. I'm imagining, flipping a thought out and then catching one. Flip it out, catch it. Flip, catch it. Okay. So when you're not in psychosis, though, you just forget things so much, causing you to walk into one room, then go into the living room, then to the front door, and then back to the living room because you were doing something in the living room. But what was it? Oh yeah, I need to clean my room. I go to my room, and I see the lamp is on, so I turn it off to save electricity. Then I wonder why I'm in my room. One big symptom is memory loss, related to forgetting what you're thinking, what you're doing, and so on. Maybe this happens to a lot of people, but as someone with schizophrenia and bipolar, combined with being schizoaffective, I believe that I experience this much more often than most people do. Most people are able to accomplish tasks without forgetting what the task is over and over, and they shift between various tasks and forgetting and jumping between the steps, confused on which one to do first. I don't know how much other people have in their head. I don't know what's going on in other people's heads. I would imagine that, most people, they have a quiet mind, at least a lot of the time. Maybe they're like, okay, I need to do this, this, this. And then they're like, oh, maybe I don't want to do it. Maybe I do want to do it. And it's as simple as that. But for me, it's like I'm thinking about all those things that were in psychosis. I'm thinking about how to write them down and describe them. I'm thinking about more, weird thoughts that come into my head. I'm thinking about, this and that about life, this and that I need to do. I'm thinking about feelings. I'm thinking about relationships and like how all that works. Like why are people like, okay, now you're mine. Just all this and that. So let's talk about voices a little bit. During psychosis, voices just come right out of the mouth as though something else is doing this for me. I feel no agreement to the actions and comments. It just happens. Some people would say I get possessed or maybe start following the universe in a non-evil way. Consider possession is associated with the devil. I like to think maybe you can get possessed by good spirits or God or whatever. That's actually what I've thought before. Is like, possess me, God. Make me a demigod. Make me a demigod. Sometimes I feel that the ideas come into my head, begin to open my mind to new things. I have better understanding of the world. I don't know how to describe the difference between a first person willfully acting, which is what I'm doing right now, I guess, a second person receiving, and a third person observer. My mind shifts between all of these, especially during a psychosis episode. The odd thing is I experience all of this by myself, alone. How do I experience second person? Second person means that there must be a first person and I'm the second. So there must be another person in the room with me. That's where it becomes, a voice is speaking to me and, this and that. where it's like their first, we have the first person, a spirit over here, and then they speak to me, the second person receiver. I'm receiving their thoughts or whatever. And a third person observer is where then I'm the first person, some other person jumps in, and become, my body's like the first person maybe. Then something else jumps in as the second person. Then my mind becomes the third person observer and just watches as I go do weird crap. So yeah, my mind shifts between all that, especially during psychosis. Occasionally I experience some voices and clues from the environments that shape my thoughts and things like that when I'm not in psychosis. And I know generally to avoid the invitations like, clues and weird things that you're piecing together, but it still shapes my thoughts. I'm able to control myself enough to not engage in any activities based upon voices or impulsive whims or energies that pull or push on me. Obviously, psychosis has its own type of disorganized behavior and speech. During psychosis or manic episodes, your thoughts just carry on and change, and so you can't remember it because it flew through your mind so fast. Without psychosis, it's just many thoughts in the head that it's hard to remember and keep track of. Generally, it's hard for me to process what people are saying relating to the symptom of inappropriate emotional response. Without being able to process everything going on in a social setting in combination with my own crazy head, it's hard to be on the same place mentally or the same plane or vibe because all this distraction in my mind. So yeah, when people speak to me, I'm often just a blank stare because I'm full of anxiety, switch between different places, different planes, and I'm not getting the full picture because I tune in and out so much that I can't comprehend the whole thing. It's like watching a movie while being on your phone. You catch parts of the movie, but you can't tell a summary to a friend because you only got clips of it. So when someone talks to me, I tune in and out like that, but I'm not really aware that I'm doing it. So it's not like I'm like, okay, this person's annoying and boring, so I'm just gonna be like, yeah, blah blah blah. It's just like I'm listening to them, and then like thoughts come in, and then it like just switches back and forth between listening and to them and my own thoughts. So I think I've pretty much described in thorough detail this stuff, and I'm sure there's more aspects to these different symptoms, but those are kind of, how some of those symptoms play out, what they look like, and things like that. So, real quick, let's just like do a small game to see, what it would be like for you. I want you to pay attention to the color, the number, and specialties, things like that. And then I want you to, no pausing, anything like that, no making the video go slow. I want you to write down or type in the comment section which cards you see and in what order they are, what color and what number and everything, and what order they're in. Pretty sure they're backwards on camera, so that's stupid. But, yeah. So go ahead, write in the comments, whatever. Obviously some of them were backwards, so just say it was the Uno side. Yeah. Thanks for watching and all that. Go check out Drugs, my music video on this channel. I need to make a better music video, and I need to get better songs polished and published, because I have way better songs that need to get finished. But I need to get into that studio, bro. The studio man hasn't been replying to me, so I don't know if I'm annoying to him or what, or maybe he's just busy, dude. Farewell, dudes.